Good evening. Welcome to the living room. My name is Joanna Davis, and I have my wonderful co-host Jody Jewett here.
Hello, thank you for joining us today.
It's here in the living room where stories and testimonies are shared. It's here where people like ourselves share our stories of love, hope, and faith. It's stories of transformation, stories of healing, and redemption, and most importantly, salvation. And so today we have a wonderful guest, Lachelle Brown.
Hello.
Lachelle Brown is going to share her story of bondage to freedom.
Yes, bondage to freedom.
Yes, and we are excited to hear all about it, Lachelle. So now that you're here with us, we're really excited that you have joined me and Jody to participate in the living room and to share your testimony. And I love how you shared that you want to tell it in a way where it starts as bondage and
Yes.
now you're in a place of freedom.
Yes, freedom. And thank you both for having me.
Wonderful.
I'm excited to be here. Yes, my story is just to talk about the bondage that I myself personally was in, and now today I walk in freedom.
Amen. Amen.
So I want to talk a little bit about that.
Well, let's do it. So, what was it like for you growing up?
So, being a child, when my mother had me, she was 14.
Wow.
It's 1964. It wasn't kind of popular to be pregnant in 1964.
Right.
So, I was born into rejection.
Yeah.
Because my mother was rejected. Of course, she was rejected the seed that was inside of her. So, coming up in that, I went through a lot of abuse and feeling rejected in everything that I did in my life. My mother, not that I don't love my mother, so don't get it wrong. I love my mother.
Absolutely.
But she went through a period of being on drugs herself from that rejection. And so with her being on drugs, I was kind of left to raise my siblings. I started being a mom at 9.
Wow.
You know, I had brothers and sisters that I had to feed. I had to take care
That
of.
had been difficult.
And my mom sometimes would be gone weeks at a time. And so it was my job to figure out how I'm going to feed us. So
That's
I would
a pretty big load at 9 years old.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know it happens.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I would do whatever, go to the neighbors, figure it out. But I was going to feed my brothers and my sisters one way or another, you know. So growing up with that caused a lot of anger. So with the anger, it kind of made me rebellious as well, because I would just do anything. You just say the word, and I was willing to do it. It didn't bother me. I didn't think twice about it. I would do just anything.
I can kind of see how anger would motivate that. You know, knowing that you're 9 years old, you're having to take on an adult responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw other kids having fun at 9, and here you are at home having to take on such a huge responsibility and not enjoy being
Life.
9 years old.
No. And, you know, back then it was, don't open the door. You know what I mean? So I wasn't allowed to open the door. I really wasn't supposed to, but I would literally be sneaking out, scared to death, but I'm sneaking out to try to figure a way. You know, I go to the store, I'd be stealing, you know, because I'd steal hot dogs and, you know, whatever I could get my hands on to take back home to take care of my brothers and sisters.
Wow.
So I really didn't have like your normal childhood where you got to go outside and play and run on the playground. Wasn't none of that, you know, in my life. Washing clothes. We didn't wash in the washing machine. We put them in the bathtub. Me and my sister, we'd be stomping them, and then we'd bring them out, and then we'd lay them all out on the floor.
Wow.
And that's how we had clean clothes. You know?
That is really really hard to hear. And I say that because what 9-year-old child, and I'm not saying anything bad about mom or anything like that, but
Yeah.
mom had to been in a pretty dark place at that moment in her life
Yeah.
to even not notice or have some type of unction that she wasn't doing her part as a mother. And here's
just didn't. When
Yeah.
she was there, she was asleep. You know what I mean? Somehow she managed to keep a roof over her head. That's all I can say. But my grandmother, who she kept her hand on me. You know,
something about them grandmas.
My grandmother, she loved me.
Wow.
And so she'd always slip me some money, or there was a time where my mom had a boyfriend, and so this boyfriend, my mom went to jail, and this boyfriend was left with us.
Wow.
So he starts touching on me. I'm just like, I have no idea that my body is formed like it is, because I got the mind of I was probably 10, maybe 11.
Okay.
So he's touching on me. So I'm scared. So I tell my sister, because my sister had more gumption than me, I would say, when it came to being mouthy. She was more the mouthy one than I was. So I tell my sister, and she says, well, we gonna sleep with my brothers. So until my mom got home from jail, I slept every night in the room with my brother so he couldn't touch me. Now, I hated my brother's room because, boys, their rooms was... But, I slept there. And when I told my mother the place that she was in, it was my fault. I thought, what? I didn't do nothing. I'm crying. I didn't do anything. I wasn't allowed to wear pajamas from there forth. I couldn't wear pajamas to bed. That messed with me mentally as well.
And this is because she felt that it was your fault.
It was my fault.
That he was touching you.
Yes. And I think I was shapely, but I didn't know I was shapely because I was a little girl.
Right.
I wasn't like, the generation is today. That's not how we grew up, so I really hadn't recognized who I was or how I was built or anything like that. So finally I told my grandma, I said, Grandma, I'm scared. He keeps trying to touch me, and when Mom's not there, my grandmother, he used to catch the RTD bus to work. My grandma stopped that RTD bus. She put me in a car. She drove. She stopped that RTD bus. She pulled him off that bus.
My goodness.
She said, you see her? You see
You see her something about grandma.
She had her pistol. She said, let me tell you what, if you ever touch her again, I'm going to prison. Because I'm going to kill you. Don't you ever touch her again. And he disappeared after that.
Wow.
He disappeared.
Just
never
gone.
saw him. Yeah, never saw him again. But
how was your mom's relationship with him? Was it
still with him?
Oh.
Still with him. So
okay.
I just had to stay in my room a lot, which we did.
Okay.
We did anyway. So it didn't really.
Where was Dad? Where was your father?
We lived in Colorado. My mom took us from my dad.
Okay.
My mom and dad. Now my dad married my mother. When she got pregnant with me, he married her.
Okay.
And we lived on Chautauqua Parkway, but my mom wanted to take a different path. She met how us women do sometimes. We meet a guy who's more worldly, and he introduced her to drugs. And
I see.
My dad was like, no, go. Well, she kept us, and then my grandmother was moving to Denver, and she snatched us all and took us all to Denver.
I see.
And pretty much from there, it was just, my life was just filled with abuse, extension cords, beatings. I've told many times, if you've ever heard me preach, I talk about how I grew up with a fat person's mentality, because I was always told that you're fat. Well, if you look at my pictures when I was young, I wasn't look at fat on me, but in my mind,
you were fat.
I was fat.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that was a stronghold for you.
Yeah.
Just,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know,
When I finally left, I left my mom.
that's bondage. I mean,
Yeah, I was stuck.
Yeah.
In mental bondage, full of rage, full of anger, tired of being starved, tired of being beaten. And I called my dad. I couldn't go to school one day because I got whooped with the extension cord. And I had gym that day, and I was scared they was going to see the marks on my legs. So I didn't go to school. I went to, at that time, my mom's husband, I went to his mother's house. I'll never forget it. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, if you don't come get me, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going back. I can't go back. And my dad paid for me a bus ticket, and that's how I ended up back in Iowa. Me and my little brother got on the bus, and I came back to Iowa. Now my dad's getting this teenager who's just full of rage, anger, just I didn't trust anyone.
And I'm sure with all of that was happening to you at such a young age, your identity, like you couldn't have possibly known who you were.
No.
You know,
No. I thought
probably had some low self-esteem.
I did. Bad.
Yeah.
Bad. Really bad. So that's what made it hard for me.
That's probably what made you really angry.
Yeah.
You know, because when you don't know who you are and you don't love yourself and you don't...
How can you love anybody? Only thing I knew to love was my brothers and my sisters. Now they'll tell you they're like my kids because, you know, I keep them close to me.